Mm,
Which
I
one
mean,
did you get for your? Is it fine?
it's
I think
fine.
it
It's
sounds good.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Always be growing, always be improving,
Yeah.
always be evolving, like fungus.
Oh, wow. That's very apropos.
Yeah, I've got fungus on the mind. I had mushrooms for dinner. Figure.
Oh, okay. You clarified. You said for dinner, and I was about to have questions for you, Eric, but
Oh, I have
no,
friends
all
over for
clear
dinner.
now.
Yeah, they're all infected. It's the whole thing.
Oh,
Not
you're
the
having
greatest.
friends for dinner.
And yeah, sure. Anyway, should we play the music?
Uh, you can if you want to.
Yeah, I'm playing the music.
All right, go for it.
Here we go.
Tell me all about your latest obsession. Are you a fan? Got guilty pleasures? Air your confessions. What the hype? What the hype? Take me from fan stand. What the hype? What the hype? Ooh, what's the hype? Yeah. What the hype?
Welcome, fellow sporers and survivors to our beginner episode of What the Hype on season 2 of HBO's The Last of Us, which has just aired. If you're listening live or watching live as we're streaming this right now, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And a particular welcome to the co-hosts this week. We have Laura. Welcome, Laura.
Hello, hello. Thank you
We
for
have
having me.
Chelsea. Welcome back, Chelsea.
Hi, everybody.
And we have Mark. Welcome back, Mark.
Hello. Hello.
This is this sort of thing where I can just see by next week we'll have Pam, somebody down the hall that's also watching the show that just like have to like I think we'll just keep adding on to the bandwagon and the bus and having the need that I feel to talk about this show now that it's airing, now that we've seen some of it, is just gonna keep eating away at us. So anyone that wants to be a part of it, let's come on and do it. So we just saw Future Days, the first episode of season 2 of HBO's The Last of Us. Guys, what did you think?
I thought there were some really smart choices made, especially around establishing, not giving any spoilers here, but establishing some of the story that is to come. I know, Eric, when Chelsea, and I were talking about this on our season 2 predictions, we were really wondering how they were going to introduce certain characters and certain story arcs in a way that would make sense from a narrative standpoint in television. And I think they made a pretty early choice in showing the aftermath of, the season finale of season 1 on the Fireflies that Joel, excuse me.
Well, his name
Even
is
though
either Joe or
yeah,
Joel.
they're like
Yeah,
he's
Joe
either
or
Joe
Joel.
or
Yeah.
Joel. That's why I got confused. But we're literally seeing the aftermath of the survivors, and we're seeing the aftermath of the family members and friends who are having to reckon with the fact that Joel killed all these people they loved. So I think that was a really, really perfect way to set the scene for this season. What did y'all think?
I loved being introduced to Abby, portrayed by Caitlin Dever. I have only seen her in a couple of things, and not that I didn't see her as Abby. I mean, they made a decision to change some physique things, etc. But I mean, seeing her resolve and the intensity that she holds inside, um, that was especially fulfilling for how I expect her character to progress in this season. And so I'm glad we got that early introduction without, I'm trying to think of exactly how to phrase this. We understand part of what her hurt is, but we don't have the full context. And so I'm glad we got that introduction without over introducing her this early on.
That's a good point. The game, even The Last of Us Part 2, is so non-linear in its narrative and storytelling that it felt really good to see them just picking up right after the finale and showing that, okay, this, yes, we will explore a consequence of the actions of the first season. Just felt natural, felt right. And because she gets the first scene, Abby, it puts her automatically at a position of power, of we're paying attention to her. We all remember, I think, the very first scene of the last season is this, fungal infection hypothesis from decades ago that proves harrowingly to be true. So think of that level of power that's just been given to Abby and her group of really kind of beaten down, broken, like fireflies that, 5 years has passed now, but we don't see them. Abby's clearly the one that's going to be the one acting on all of their collective grief and of their anger. And I just really love how the show, every choice seems effortless. Just effortlessly pass the ball or the torch essentially to Abby. Be like, okay, have this.
Yeah. I do want to call out, this is nice and affirming, because I did find myself wondering during the episode. I was like, oh, I wonder how this is going to play for people who didn't play the game and who don't necessarily know what's coming. And Laura, who has joined us on YouTube, no association, by the way, although she is a very cool Laura. She runs a Bookish Corner TikTok, and you should definitely follow her, Laura's Bookish Corner. But Laura says, as somebody who never played the games, I feel like I'm missing critical information. But now I'm thinking, what led to them being so at odds, Ellie and Joel specifically? And that really is the big question at the start of the season and at the start of the game. And I think they do a decent job of linking it to the fact that Joel has not been totally forthcoming with Ellie about what happened at the end of last season.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best way to answer it at this point.
Yeah. I love the and this show's done such a good job throughout, and since Neil Druckmann is like a very strong force in this show, it's great to see them adapt so many gameplay like storytelling methods into film or TV, and it works so well. Like the therapist session was great. Like I was like, this is
Yeah.
such a good idea, because this you get so much more exposition now that you would have to like walk around the town and talk to random people. You know what I mean? Like it's just like,
Yeah.
no, he would be in therapy. This makes perfect sense. Like, and then like that was great to kind of show things off and kind of be like, there's something going on here. Like that's kind of like Joe or Joel, allegedly
What is his name? Well, like, can we get
Right.
some proof? Like, can we ask him?
right. Let me see an ID, man. Let me see an
Yeah.
ID.
It's
But
expired.
yeah,
You
like,
can't go by it.
but yeah, they do such a good job of like making the viewer kind of feel like they're getting that information organically. Like they're not just like sitting you down and shoving it down your throat, right? It's like, no, he's just having a conversation. Like obviously he feels some stuff about what's going on. The thing they did with the therapist where like her husband got by, like that was great. I'm like, oh, that's
Oh,
a nice touch.
Eugene.
That is such a nice
Mhm.
touch.
It's-
Yeah, like that
it's-
was great.
Yeah, and she leads by example. That's perfectly like she's, even as she's going through that moment of confessing her pain, she's explaining what it is. Now that I've said it out loud, I can fight it. Da, 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 da. Now you do it, and he kind of thing in his,
And
in
that
his Joel
scene-
way.
Oh, and that scene was great because you see him like he was getting close. Like he was like his lips were quivering. He was kind of, and then you saw him like kind of like stone back up and put that like mask on. And he was like, I saved her, and just walked out. And I'm like, ooh, next session, Joel. We got you.
Yeah,
next
yeah.
time.
The very next session, I hope. Don't know how much time we have to get that out of you. But I think that in response to Laura's kind of comment that she feels overwhelmed by, or that there's some critical information you're missing. I want to believe that the questions that the show wants you to be asking as a viewer who has not played the games are kind of the same questions that we were asking at this point in the story, which is, I think, is what Laura was saying too. Like,
Totally.
again, Last of Us Part 2 is so nonlinear. Even the dance that happens with Ellie and Dina and that scene is way later in the game, from my recollection, way later. And so there's actually quite a bit that viewers have from having seen this episode that you wouldn't have till 20 hours of gameplay into the game. So I would say don't feel bad about that. Obviously, the
No.
questions that you're able to come up with are the questions that the writers, clever writers, want you to be asking at this point. Like, what is there, falling out about? But if you look at the dialogue, it's in there. Essentially, Ellie, after Joel intervenes at the dance and pushes Seth down, says, "I don't want your fucking help." That ultimately is a microcosm of the entire way she feels. That one line, it's so simple, again, effortless, explains exactly what the schism between Joel and Ellie is. And the rest of the episode is spent going, she's a teenage girl, like she's 19, no 19-year-old ever gets along with their parents. So I think between those two explanations, you have everything you need.
Yeah, I think so. And you get more
Yeah, all the
detail.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the questions are by design. Like, I feel like they're doing a really good job of like kind of making you be like, "Oh, what's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, don't worry," because when they give you an answer in this show, everything's gonna hurt. It's gonna be great, but it's gonna hurt. Every answer's gonna hurt.
We were recording very briefly before hitting the record button. Mark's just like, "Oh, this whole season's gonna hurt."
Yep. So good. It's
yeah.
gonna hurt so good. I'm here for it. I can't wait. But I just have so much respect because even the very first scene of the show was going back to the last scene of the last season. And then immediately after that, it was like, and here's Abby. So it was like immediate, like, hey, this was the thing, and this is the result of that thing. Here's the consequence of that thing that you just saw. So they're doing a very good job being like, you see this over here? This is the line to this next thing. Like they're queuing it up perfectly, because you're right, in the game, like there was a lot of, you go through the thing, then there's a flashback and you see somebody's flashback where they talk about some thing, which in a game is great, because you want to keep your players involved after 20, 30, 40 hours. But for like an actual show, it's a lot better to just kind of streamline that and be like, this is what happened when they got back. Like, this is like pretty much everything's been chronological except for that 5-year jump in the beginning.
Which is kind of funny. Like, yeah, we're gonna kill him. We're gonna 5 years later. Like, oh, okay.
Yep. I mean, it's
I
realistic,
guess some
right?
shit
Like,
happened.
they're looking for Joes. They're looking for Joes all over the place.
You know what? They went all the way through Jackson. They were like, "Are you Joe? Are you Joe?" Nope. They crossed it off a big giant whiteboard they had. This place is not it. There's no Joe.
Yeah,
Or like, a lot
Joe
of people
Schmoes
named
don't
Joe.
exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't exist anymore.
Joe
They
Schmiller.
they got them all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievable. But oh yeah, Chelsea.
I just want to say, as someone who, we're all fans of the game, we've all played the game. I have so much appreciation for how they're continuing to find new creative ways to adapt. There is so much of this episode. In fact, I'd say the
Yeah.
majority of this episode that is ripped straight from the games. But so I spent the last week playing through the first game, and I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, I've already killed 10 of these things. I just want to get to the next story point, please. And so I have so much appreciation for the way the show is like taking out some of that tediousness. I mean, I love the games, but I'm playing the games for the story. And so to go back to Mark's earlier point about the exposition that's allowed in scenes like with Catherine O'Hara as Gail, the therapist, I love that so much because it's giving us essential information and taking out some of that tediousness. But I also want to highlight that this episode has maybe one of the most gamey scenes of the entire show so far, which is...
Was it the bottle? Throwing the bottle to distract the
and just like
The
that whole
MVP
scene.
of the first game.
I
The
was
best thing you
so
could
happy
possibly
about
have.
that.
It was great.
Oh, I just want to see that there's a bottle there. I just want to see
Yep.
them pick it up and throw. Oh, it's so good.
Mark's favorite character from Last of Us confirmed. The bottle. The glass
Mine
bottle.
too.
It's in
You
there.
You can throw like, what is it, a brick instead, and
A
it
Brick,
you know,
yeah.
it's a
It
satisfying
stuns
side
them.
effect, but it's
Yeah.
not.
But
the
when
same
you
as the bottle.
when you throw the
It's not
glass
the same.
bottle and all the people look, that's like classic Batman. That's like the classic stealth game thing, Like "What's that?" said the NPC, and then their guy. Like that's classic. You know, it's great. I love it. They did a great job with that scene, and also that scene with the stalker. They introduced that way sooner.
Yes, they
Like
did.
man, like in the game, like I remember it was when you were in the one of the cities. You were going through one of the
Yeah.
cities and all the
You were going
collapsed
through a
buildings.
convention hall, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and like you see it, like you see something peek from around a corner and then run away, and I was like, nope, I have not seen anything do that for the past game and like a third so far, and they're usually just shambling around, you know, they're not smart, but seeing it like literally like creep on you and then scamper off, I was like, oh no, and they nailed it in this episode. Like they completely captured how unsettling that is, and even afterwards with the council thing that was new, like the whole council
It
meeting.
warranted
cool.
notifying.
Yeah,
Like, it was
that
terrifying
made so
enough.
much sense. Yeah, that was so great. Like literally being like, "Hey, this thing wasn't just shambling at me or sprinting at me. It was like actually afraid of me and like
Mhm.
flanking me." And it's like, "Yeah, you should tell everybody that because that's huge news." You know, like that's great. Mm-mm-mm.
And this
They're
is
cooking.
something,
They are cooking.
Chelsea, I think you called this out for us in our season 2 predictions episode that we did last week, where Mason and Druckmann really talked about how one of the themes of this season is going to be escalation. And one of those escalations is going to be with the development of the infected. So we're going to see different types of infected, different types of transmission. We already saw a little hint in this episode that cordyceps are like growing into the water lines in Jackson. Did
Hmm.
y'all notice
Mhm.
that? I
Yeah.
was like,
That
oh,
was
that's
ooh.
different.
And what a fake out. Because at first when the sprinkler fell, I was like, oh, it's gonna set it on fire and there's gonna be a fire. That's cool. And then you saw the things coming out, and it's like, oh, you got me. You got me. I was not expecting that at all. Like
Yeah.
that was cool. That was
Well,
cool.
and that's a return of elements introduced in, the first season. It's strictly a
Mhm.
show thing, but Tess and Joel, when they're walking to drop Ellie off at the building, they know about this network, and essentially, if you step on a strand that's not dried out and dead, they will send a horde after you. And so that was that coming back. Also, the stalker had those tendrils kind of coming out of actually the hole in her nose, which was really cool. Not quite the mouth, but it's something new. And these are elements that are were not in the game, but are televised and adapted for television. But with the stalker, my understanding, and please correct me because I think aren't they a missing link that were I think they were exclusively in part 2 first.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
when part 1 was remastered, I think either as part 1 or the first time they did it in HD, they added stalkers back in to part 1 in one or
Yeah.
two
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
levels.
I was about to say the version I just played was the PS5 Part 1 remaster, and there is one gameplay section that has stalkers, and it's when Joel and Sam and Henry and Ellie get split off in the underground areas. They're escaping the city.
Ah,
And
okay.
you come across stalkers, and there's just like an entire network of tunnels where you have to clear out all the stalkers.
Mhm.
So I didn't remember if that was something that existed in the original game as presented on the PS3, but it definitely is there now, at least as part of the remaster.
The
Yeah,
thing I
and they
yeah.
they did a good job too in the game of like teasing a lot of the new evolutions too. Like I remember in the first game, they kind of like showed you, like hinted at bloaters before you saw a bloater, like when you're going through that building and it had the like the file that was like, runners, then clickers, and then the last one, like it was just like scratched out, and I was like,
Mhm.
that's gonna suck. Whatever that is, that's gonna suck. But it
Yeah.
was great. Like I'm very excited to see how they like, because like they've done a very good job of every time they introduce a new zombie clicker evolution thing in this series, they really give them room to strut. Like when they first showed a bloater, when it was climbing out of the ground on fire, like when that thing fell down in the
Tearing people apart.
town.
What that was an
Yeah.
entrance.
Yeah.
That was like, there you go. Like they really like set the stage for them. And even with the stalker, same thing. Like seeing the stalker get the jump on Ellie, where like Ellie turned back around and shot and it wasn't there, and it just Batmaned her and just like like tackled her, and I'm like, yeah, that's how the stalkers are. So like, I can't wait for some of the other zombies in Last of Us 2 to get their big screen or small screen debut.
I can wait, because this is terrifying enough. And this is just one of them. This is one stalker. In the game, there's a smart, like, there's so many of them in different scenes. Like, can you imagine 2? Like, and Ellie is the most battle hard, like, short of Joel and Tommy, who are, like, you know, upper echelon, sure, they've been doing this for 30 years. Ellie is, like, the most hardened, like, and this got the jump on her. This bit her. That would be a death sentence to anyone else in this world. Which shows partially how reckless she is, which is a huge theme, I think, in this episode. But it also shows how unprepared or underprepared she or anyone in Jackson really are for the, you know, potentially for the horrors that are out there.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are plenty of those that we can get to. There's a lot of ground we have not even begun to cover yet in this premiere episode of season 2 of The Last of Us. We do need to cut to a quick ad break to hear from our sponsors, and we will be right back to get into the rest of it. And
that was
pause for
perfect
edit
timing.
here. I know, and if you're watching us live right now, you're not actually being subjected to an ad. That's just for the audio version. We can go back and get into it.
I have one more question about stalkers before really an observation before we move on from stalkers. I mentioned before, I think they are intended to be and listed as a missing link, whether it's a Fedra document that's a collectible in the game or something, because after a certain period of, like, clickers exist because the fungus, like, blows through the skull. Like, clickers are blind. They see by sound, and stalkers are not blind. So they exist in a period of time before you get to clicker. And what's more terrifying, I kind of was asking this question throughout the episode, especially during the stalker scene, is does it make sense because, like, runners don't have any inhibitions, right? They run straight at you. They have no impulse control. Stalkers have an incredible amount of impulse control, as you're seeing them backing away, strategizing, you know, kind of thing.
Hiding, yeah.
Yeah, clickers, which is like the next stage, are totally reactive. We haven't really seen them strategize. So a stalker is almost like this it's more terrifying, but it's also like maybe the fungus has, before it, you know, grows too much and blows out your brain and, like, basically renders you blind and turns you into a clicker, maybe it's actually begun to be able to affect the decision-making centers of a human's brain and, like, actually get into more of those. So you're not just a mindless infected. Maybe it's actually learning to harness your sight, your, like, kind of what's the word, strategy kind of skills before it grows too big inside you and then creates a clicker. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does,
that makes
especially
sense.
when we think about how, you know, cordyceps are established to work in this universe, and how Eric, I think you brought this up in our planning episodes for getting into season 2, a specific cordyceps in the Pacific Northwest that intentionally infects its host and over time takes over them to the point where they're just husks of beings that are being controlled by the fungus. So
a stalker is like the apex of that. Like a clicker is what you get to, but a stalker is the very last.
Yeah.
Also, it may be like a later Pokemon game situation where, like, different areas have different variances for evolution. So it may not be that it's like this stalker. It may just be like this stalker over here. Because, like, what if you get infected and it just infects your vocal cords first, so you can't make any noises, and it's working its way up your, you know what I mean? So, like, your brain would be kind of not as infected, but so I guess it would depend on just how it's infecting you, I guess, you know?
And the less common or the less mainstream that is, like the infection method that caused the stalker, the fewer of them there would be. You would have fewer stalkers if it's less common. If it's not, everyone turns into this. And I think, well, I know, and we all know from having played part 2, that what you're talking about, Mark, geographic location and certain elemental considerations do affect the fungus and growth of therein in ways we will absolutely be seeing. Maybe not this season, but
Definitely.
maybe.
So the zombies are now a low in Pokemon. Got it. They are now a low in evolution Pokemon.
Yeah, but you know, there's other things like other cool Eevee evolutions maybe we haven't seen.
Hmm.
So
The mushroom evolution from Eevee. It's just
I want to see it. You know, I'm glad that this virus has not infected bears. You know,
Yeah.
it's gone to humans and kind of skipped bears. The bear corpse, at least it's dead. You know,
Man,
it's
man, what
Can you
a right, like they dodged a bullet because they are so lucky this thing doesn't affect animals because they'd be done. Like think
God.
They'd have
about
no food
all
source.
of the
Bear.
I mean, yeah, bears, raccoons. Like you think raccoons can mess you up? A clicker raccoon? Nah. It's a wrap. Like there's just so many animals just in the wilderness in general. Once that network spread, like this kind of only works if it only affects humans, you know? Because if it was everything, like nah, like that'd just be too much. That'd be too much.
amazing.
Well,
So,
I know. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
um, yeah. I wanted to talk about, I mean, we can go kind of linearly through the episode, but I think we're focusing, and I rightly so, on what moved us the most, impressions, overarching things. I want to talk about Ellie. It's so great to see her, you know, in a different place, and some of that joy that comes from being a little bit more established. But there's lines of dialogue in this episode. I think Jesse's even like, "What? You're part of the community now." That show us that 5 years later on, she's still in some ways an outsider. And you know, I reintroduced to Ellie during a fight scene, during a scene where she's essentially training, but takes it kind of too far. And the question I kept asking this episode throughout the whole, seeing everything that happened to Ellie, is does her immunity, which is established to, you know, this virus, has it made her completely reckless, like beyond saving reckless?
I think
And is she
that-
taking others down with her?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's part of it that has to do specifically with her or her being immune, but really, I think it just comes from, and this is the same with Joel. They are broken people who
Mhm.
went through some stuff in the first season. I think back to the end of episode 8 in last season when she took a butcher knife to David's face, and I mean, like she was completely traumatized in that moment. I mean, she won, but like at what cost? And we see at the beginning of episode 9 as her and Joel are first arriving to Salt Lake City in the hospital, where she's just completely in her own world. Like something has snapped within her, and she's disconnected from a certain aspect of her humanity. And clearly, time hasn't really healed that within her. We see she's grown tougher. We see that she's more adept at shooting. There's the continuation of the shooting lessons with Tommy and how she's gotten so much better at that. So she's more capable physically this time around, but emotionally she's still somewhere left behind as the little girl who wasn't able to achieve the goal that she had seen as her life's purpose following the deaths of people she loved.
Hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. That's a great point. And honestly, like I love, like to your point, I love the like dichotomy between Abby and Ellie. Like seeing Ellie try to regain her humanity. Like she's like in a community now, right? And like she's trying to like be part of a town, and like she has a crush. Like all these things are very human for her. But like you kind of see Abby going the opposite way where it's like we need to find this person. Like I can live the rest of my life later. I'm gonna just devote myself to this thing and have it just completely consume me. So it's cool to see like you basically have Abby giving away her humanity to become like a weapon, and then you have Ellie like giving away a little bit of her like independence, I guess,
Yeah.
to just be more like human and like experience more human things that she normally wouldn't have, you know,
To
like
that
especially in
point-
Last of Us 1.
So at that point, the thing that I'm thinking about in this moment is when we last saw them in Jackson in season 1, where she comes across the diary. She's like, "Is this what people had to worry about, boys?" And like matching their top with their skirt. And then in this episode, we see her like writing in her diary about her crush and a joke that she told today. And
Yep.
it's like, I
Yeah.
love so much. There were a couple moments I got emotional in this episode, but one of the most simple things was as we got our first overhead shot of Jackson, and it's just a place that is existing in this post-apocalyptic world, and they figured out how to do life, and it's normal, and they have dances, and they watch movies, and they play guitar, and it's just like a normal life. And for Ellie to be experiencing that and healing very, very slowly through these relationships and through this community building is really, really heartwarming. But I love that the problems of the first season of like trekking across America and trying to be the cure for this incurable disease infection. And then her problems this time around to finally be, I have a crush on this girl.
Mhm.
What do I do
Like,
about
yeah,
it?
Yeah.
right. The fact that when they were in the little like shopping center, like the grocery store,
Mhm.
and like they she was like walking around and she saw the magazine and she like stopped and looked at them and like flipped through it, and it's like, man, if this was season 1 and you were in a place that had clickers in it, you wouldn't just be casually thumbing through
No.
like a People's magazine, right? Like it just kind of shows how like, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but like how complacent she's gotten, because one, she has the immunity, so she kind of doesn't really care about getting bit. She kind of to her, she's like, oh, I have extra lives, right? Like if you're playing a game that and you have 99 lives, you're not going to really care. But like she she is like comfortable, kinda. But in the first season and in the first game, she was anything but. Like her whole life was just a struggle constantly. So it's kind of cool seeing her be like, oh, this is kind of like she's kind of getting cozy, which she should, because that's what people do. But like, it's interesting to see the Ellie we saw in the first season put up next to this one, where it's like, oh, what are you doing? Are you like hunting that clicker? That's cool. Versus like, oh, a magazine. And it's like that's what people do in a grocery store line, like in our
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just cool to see that like difference in her
Yeah,
character.
but she's still so awkward in that like
Mm-hmm.
teenage way because she doesn't know how to function around Dina, not really. At least,
Yeah.
you know, in more the beginning of this episode where it was very clear, I think, to viewers that Dina was very interested in Ellie, and it kind of seemed like Ellie didn't develop an awareness of this until the very last moment where it was like, oh, she's
Mm-hmm.
about to kiss me. I guess she does like me. But what I loved about this is in order to pull that off, they also had to establish Dina really early, and they had to
Mm-hmm.
establish her and Ellie's dynamic really early, which means it had to be believable and you had to be rooting for them. And I think they nailed it. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
scene where it's Seth, isn't it, who hurls a pejorative at
Mhm.
Ellie and Dina after they're kissing at the party. Um, that whole scene pretty much plays out beat for beat as it did in the
Mm-hmm.
game, and that was also satisfying to see. But again, much like the first season and the premiere episode of season 1 did an amazing job of consolidating so much foundational world building into that first episode. They did that again here. I'm really
Mm-hmm.
impressed because they had a lot of establishing ground to cover, and they did. It might not be,
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't play the game, you may not know exactly where this is going, but if you did, you can see exactly why they're setting it up the way they are, and I think it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty brilliant.
Yeah, I loved Dina so much. She's just the right
Mhm.
amount of feminine and playful and soft in contrast with Ellie's more masculine and hard, but not at the cost of toughness because she is
Mm-hmm.
clearly just as capable. And we see that in that scene where they go into the grocery store together. It's really
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she has kind of the she's she's very capable, but she's capable in a different way than Ellie because again, Ellie's kind of reckless. Like Ellie kind of has like the Indiana Jones vibe where she just kind of stumbles through
Ah,
things and they kind of work out. But like Dina's like Jason Bourne. Like she's literally like, there's three of them in here. I'm listening. Like she
amazing.
was literally
Yeah.
doing the listening thing from the game where you kneel down and you do the and everything
Uh-huh.
goes black and white. She was literally doing that to see how many there were. And I'm like, I've done that for so many hours in this game, just crouching in a corner awkwardly and trying to listen to
The
see what's there. And it's like, that's awesome.
in the making of that airs along with the episodes, part of the episode, if you just hit play on the episode, you keep going after the credits, everybody. There's 10 more minutes. I don't know if you've noticed. But she describes Dina as the brains to Ellie's brawn. And I think that makes sense for the two of them. Now, continuing with Ellie very briefly, though, she does still realize there are consequences. I mean, maybe not to her getting bitten, but the belly is presumably a much more obvious place for someone else to notice that you've been bitten and feel threatened and kill you. And that's why Ellie has to do this essentially surgery on herself, has to carve out or up the bite so that it doesn't look like a bite anymore. I don't know what it's going to look like, but you know, when she sews it up like together, like that's what you have to do in this world to be able to blend in and survive kind of in a way. And so at least seeing Ellie do that, which is not in the game, is satisfying because you do see that she still does understand to some extent like what it takes to like keep going and be a part of a society, and she's apt in certain areas, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And
Oh,
before
yeah.
we get too far away from the Ellie and Dina conversation, I just wanted to shout out Kira, who's listening live on YouTube. Hey, Kira, friend of the
Hey, Kira.
pod, who said the kiss between Ellie and Dina, I thought was Ellie daydreaming at first and not real until Joel hit Seth for what he said. And I can totally see that. It kind of did have a dreamlike state about it. And also the way it was shot, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Left Behind episode from season one.
The
Where we
bright
see-
lights that are like, yeah.
Yeah, we see Ellie's backstory with her original boo, and it's not a happy ending. So,
But yeah, like
this
the
was
bright
nice to
lights
see
of
here.
the bright
Yeah.
lights.
What? Not a happy ending in Last of Us?
In
No
The
way.
Last of Us, no way.
I don't believe it.
Listen, there's somebody out there with a happy ending, and his name is Joe, and he's just living his
Right?
life. And
Well,
he's surviving.
unless they found him. They were like, hey,
Oh,
Joe.
They made it all the way
Where
to the
were
East
you on
Coast,
this
and then they're
day?
all the way back. Yeah.
So is this
Uh,
going to be like some perverse version of The Big Lebowski where someone shows up to a Joe Miller's house and
Right?
they're like, I'm gonna F you up, and he's like, what did I do?
He's like, I'm just enjoying this White Russian. Leave me alone.
Oh, the Joe I know drank whiskey. Yeah.
Right?
But okay, so we were mentioning Dina briefly, and I one of the easiest and cleverest ways to ingratiate the audience to Dina, and make it all simpler, streamline, is have Dina have a relationship with Joel, and that was so smart. One of the earliest scenes. I can't wait to talk about Joel. But Dina shows up, and we see that he likes her. He calls her kiddo. And she is a kind of bridge between, especially in this moment when Joel and Ellie are estranged, she's kind of like a middleman, and is at least capable. Joel respects her enough that she gets to ask, what's happening? What's going on there? And it's not like he's going to tell her, but at the same time, he's not going to just straight up ignore her. And it's just very nice to see. By seeing Dina's relationship with others, we then have the same relationship with her. It's a lot even better than it could afford to be in the game.
Yeah. And I think we should get on to talking about the Joel of it all here in a moment. But we do need to take a quick break to hear a few words from our sponsors. We'll be right back after this.
You're so good at those, Laura.
Oh, thank you. I'll throw it back to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Joel Miller, is just sitting when we see him in a living room, probably his living room, and he's repairing a circuit breaker. What else are you gonna do on a Sunday afternoon, you guys?
Yeah. especially in this society. Like,
They don't have The Last of Us to watch, so
yeah.
Oh, that's true. They only have Curtis and Viper sequels, and
right.
there's a diminishing return with those. But it's amazing to see even the little threads. Like, I think they established firmly in season 1, episode 1, that Joel is a contractor, and it comes up a few episodes later. Ellie asks him what do you do as a contractor. Learning now what he has learned, or he's essentially able to fluently bring up events of his past. He could never do this in season 1, but he's bringing his knowledge of home construction. He's bringing his general, I want to say, like, good nature. The Joel we're seeing in the start of this episode and for most of this episode is the old world Joel, because he has been healed by his own actions. He has been healed by, for the most part, almost completely, by everything that he's done, and coming back to a society and having people count on him, and having being reliable and being smart and capable in his field, in his in his trade. We're really seeing kind of what he would be like if the pandemic never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Too soon. Yep. But to your point
I think
earlier,
knowing okay, real world pandemic though, I think some of us, it happened to all of us, and I think some of us at least are thriving, if I could say so.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
Joel is not thriving. I think we can safely say he is not thriving.
No,
Here.
maybe Joe is though. Who knows?
Joe is somewhere.
Maybe he's
alter
doing great.
ego.
He's doing great. He's on a boat, just having a great time.
Okay, throughout the entire season, we need to imagine.
What Joe
Joel's
is doing.
the
What
Joe
Joe is
update.
You know how in Star Trek they go to the mirror universe and Spock in the mirror
Oh.
universe is Spock but with a beard? So Joe is just a clean shaven,
clean
just
shaven.
very clean,
Completely
and
clean.
not
Oh,
gray
man.
because he dyes his root, whatever. And yeah,
Going back to what you were saying earlier in the conversation about his relationship with Dina, I think it was very smart once again to do that, because it kind of makes Dina and all the other people in the town real people, right? And not just like
Mhm.
game NPCs. Because sure, like Joel and Dina were cool in the game, but they weren't that close. And like we know nothing about Dina's story, even in the game. We don't know what she did before she came to what is it called? What's the town called?
Jackson.
Alexander.
Jackson.
Jackson, yeah. Like they we don't really know what she did before this. So like depending on what she went through, she would really like a like very clear father figure that Joel is to pretty much everybody. He's like him sitting there with like his little readers on, tinkering at it, like this is the most dad thing like I've
Yeah.
seen in the show so far.
he's everybody's
Like,
dad.
Right? So like it's cool to have Dina be closer to him, because it's like, yeah, a real person that likes Ellie would probably also like Joel. So them having an actual relationship instead of just like a hey, what's up? And like just like a quick little nod, like actually seeing them be close makes us care about Dina even more now. Which was smart. Like you're using Joel and Ellie to make us care about this character that you're introducing, and it's not feeling rushed, right? Characters just didn't appear and just tell us that they were important. Like they showed us that like, hey, this character matters. There's plenty of things that this character has probably gone through that we aren't privy to, and we probably will never be privy to just because they had their own lives, right? You can't go into everybody's story, but like it's cool to have her have a deeper impact this early on, right? Because like in the game you get deeper and deep with Dina over hours. Like the dance is a flashback, so you don't even get that moment till way later, right? So but they're just like fast tracking it, which is great. Speaking of which, it would be pretty cool if they added an episode that was just how Dina got to Jackson. That would be pretty fun. Because they could.
She's got to wait in line. I want to see the
Right.
Eugene backstory. I want to
Yeah.
see. Here's the interesting thing about that. I love and am shocked by what Gail confesses in her
Mhm.
therapy scene. That there are some elements. Eugene is not a character you meet in the game, but he's a character who's very much, as Druckmann says in the making of after this episode, a presence in the game. He has a weed farm, or like a basement where there is some substantial cannabis discovered by Ellie and Dina, as a matter of fact, when they're on patrol. However, so he's not apparently alive anymore. I trust that if Gale says Joel shot Eugene, that Eugene's probably dead. But we know Eugene has been cast. He has maybe appeared once or twice in a trailer or something. And so there is some level of backstory at some point. I don't think we have any idea what, but I think we're going to get some kind of backstory with Eugene in Jackson or Eugene in Gale. And in so doing, we might get your Dina episode, Mark. Like it might be more, here are the residents of
That'd be
Jackson. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like just like with episode 3 of season 1, right? Like where they just kind of had a whole episode that wasn't really in the game, but just built on the things they talked about in the game and made it a way more beautiful story. Like season 2 is ripe for that. There's so many different things they can just like stretch out in a Last of Us 2 period. Like there's so many different characters, there's so many different like conversations, there's so many things that are implied. They could just really just stretch out, and like it's not going to feel cheap, right? Because a lot of times when shows do this, where they're like, let's take that thing and kind of like make it a whole episode, you're like, okay, like let's get back to the main story. But like season 3 of episode 1, I was like, no, I'm fine with this. Can we get another one? Can we have another episode of this, please? Like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were all talking about how that was our favorite episode last season.
Oh yeah, for
so
sure.
I think everyone
for
here
sure.
is all about expanding on the story even further. But it'll be a challenge because this season's only 7 episodes.
Well, the news that they weren't going to try and cram all of the second game into the second season was the single most heartening piece of news I've seen in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, okay, great. So now I'm sad because 7 episodes, why would you do any fewer episodes than you had in season 1? HBO's clearly paying. The production value is great. They had to have such a clear idea of where they were cutting this in order to go out and choose to do 2 fewer episodes in this season. Like, come on. Like, we know they're so good at telling the story that they want to tell. So it's like what?
Regardless, they're gonna cook. They're gonna cook. Like they can do whatever they want. They could start the episode and it could be a cartoon. I don't care. Like I'm in. like you know, they could Spider-Verse me.
Well, there's that Supernatural episode where it's all from the POV of the car that they drive in, right?
Yep, baby.
Like so
yeah.
A whole episode in Jackson from the point of view of Shimmer. You know,
that
would absolutely cook.
Whole episode in Jackson. Point of view of the bottle. It's the bottle. Has anyone seen Bullet Train? Ever seen Bullet Train? If
no.
not, great movie. Check it out. That is relevant if you've seen that movie.
I can't wait for. I'm going to see that and then I'm going to come back to you. It'll be amazing.
Yep.
But the bottle, there's going to be a montage of the last 25 years since the grocery store fell. All the last employees, the dog employee of the month walks out. The bottle just sits there. Then you have the sunlight fading and the sun rising in the sky the next day and the stars coming out in that for like 25 years. And then Ellie picks it up and then it's going to be episode. It's
going to be the old Chef Boyardee commercials where it's like rolling down the street after the girl. It's like, no more. You have Chef at home. It's like, but I love Chef. And it like rolls after her. It's going to be that with the.
It's going to win an Emmy.
Into Ellie's hand.
That
into
episode
a cooker's face.
There's not going to be any dialogue in that episode and it's going to win an Emmy.
Yep. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Oh.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Neil Druckmann, by the way. You're welcome.
Going all in on the exposition here.
Yep.
Oh my, visual storytelling. I mean, it's just so good, honestly. But so one of the things that's interesting to me about this episode too is the power structure is constantly being shaken up. You know, we see Joel, who in the first season was a father figure, be constantly at a loss, not just with Ellie, but with Gale at times. He's still learning, he's still growing. We see Maria kind of, and bless her, because she's friggin' awesome, but she stands up or steps up to Tommy, even when it's not in her best interest to kind of like question him because it's like not furthering, like it's letting Ellie get away with the fact that she was reckless for Maria to say in the council meeting, wouldn't you have done the same thing? Because Tommy's trying to like lay
Mhm.
down the law, and she's like, and I'm like, it's so interesting and so lifelike, so realistic to see these characters constantly butt heads and kind of usurp one another's power, even like, I don't know, extra textually. It just kind of like works in a really organic way, and it's just very clever writing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The writing's I love the writing in this. Even in the original game, the writing was good, but I love that because Neil Druckmann is so closely attached to this, it's like we're seeing the same story getting to evolve after a couple of
Mhm.
years. You know, it's not like it's a different person with their take on The Last of Us. Like he's still involved. So it's like if I could tell this story again now, how would I tell it now? You know, which we don't really get to see with any other stories really. Like we don't really get to see the same writer be heavily involved in a new adaptation of their like baby,
I
you
think
know?
the only time we did was like the special edition Star Wars, the first trilogy, right?
Yeah,
He came back and
yeah,
added, an extra scene in Jabba's bar.
yeah. Like we get a whole show of that, of just the creator being like, I want to do this. I want to do that. And it's not just like weird random stuff. It's stuff that like is coming from the mind of the person who
Yeah.
made the original show or
And
the
the
game, I
partnership,
mean.
yeah, the partnership between Druckmann and Mason is
Hmm.
amazing, and the proof is in the show. And I'm excited because this week there's also probably going to be a official HBO's Last of Us official podcast, which is those two
Hmm.
interviewed by Troy
Mhm.
Baker. Hello.
Oh
And they
man.
do that every week during the season. They do it every week, and it's always extremely insightful. In addition to the making of that's behind, at the end of every episode. So
Yeah, I already got
we're
the notification. It's out.
it's out.
Awesome.
I know what I'm doing before I fall
Awesome.
Dang.
asleep tonight. I mean, come on, it's like
Seriously.
because they treat us so well. You're like, this feels
Speaking
like
of treating us
living.
well, speaking of treating us well, did you notice the little Easter egg we got that and I could be wrong. You could check me on
No,
this, but I'm
you're not
pretty
wrong.
sure pretty sure one of the people in Abby's group is the actor that they're using for their new game. Like
Oh,
have you seen the trailer for the Naughty Dog's new game? The I forgot what it's called, Heretic of the something.
oh,
It's like a retro space game. It was a person, she had like a
Hmm.
red jacket on. I'm pretty sure that actress is that person that they're using the model for in the game. I could be
that
wrong, but it
that
looked,
sounds exactly like what they would do. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
they had was it Laura Bailey as the
Hmm.
nurse, one of the nurses in the. I mean, they love well, and season one really
Yeah.
brought in some of the voice cast as full blown
Hmm.
physical actors. So
Yeah.
that sounds like something they would totally do,
Yeah.
and I'd be surprised. No, I thought what you were going to mention, Mark, is one of the strings players at the party is very clearly Gustavo Santaolalla.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's I googled it and I was like, oh, they got him in. It's very great.
Yeah.
That's really
I
cool.
and like I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, call me on it next week. But yeah, like it's really cool to see just the amount of respect that they have for the game. Like everybody involved, right? The people making the music, the writers, the actors, the like the costume design, the set designers, like they're making this feel exactly like the settings in the game, right?
Hmm.
But they're making it better. Like they're like, oh, this is Jackson, but like even in the little festival or little party when they showed outside first and they showed a bunch of people just like chilling outside
Oh my
with the
god.
barbecues in the snow, and I was like, honestly, this looks way cooler than it looked in the game, because in the game I was like, oh, a dance inside with lights, all right, I guess this is kind of cool. It's like a cool little festival. When I saw like
Well,
people outside just chilling by a bunch of fires, roasting stuff and just like chilling, and I was like, this looks so natural. Like this looks like an actual party with people in it, not like a set piece in a game. You know, like because
yeah.
like you can't do that when you can do that in a game, but like you're using a lot of resources to do that in a game where you wouldn't have that much payoff. But in a show, it's like showing the outside leading into that setting where that set piece happens and showing like there are people outside. Remember, this is a town. This isn't just the Joel and Ellie show or the Joe and Ellie show,
Yeah.
right? Like there is a bunch of people that make up this world, and like it's just so good. Like every time
Well,
I
Yeah.
see, mm, 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 mm.
yeah, we
Definitely
last saw
establishes.
Jackson
Yeah.
at Christmas time 5 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And to see how it's grown, because it's Christmas time again, it's New Year's, but it's been
Yeah.
Christmas again, and seeing the changes and how much it's grown is very satisfying.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Another Easter egg I wanted to mention is that Caitlin Dever, who's playing Abby, was originally way back in the day under consideration to play Ellie when they were looking to adapt The Last of Us to a movie. Obviously, that never happened, but it's really
Hmm.
cool that Druckmann still kept her in mind.
Hmm.
He specifically still kept that actor in mind and wanted to find a way to bring her back into this. So I thought that was cool. She's too old to play Ellie at this point. Um,
I
But-
gotta say, and this goes to what Chelsea was saying at the start, I think, regarding Abby, is that I just breathed a sigh of relief after seeing her first scene and went, okay, yeah, that's Abby, absolutely, 100%. And to be fair, there were articles and there were interviews, and Mazin and Druckmann both said she's our Abby, you know, like well in advance, like she is Abby. Now that I've seen it, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because there is a physical difference, like knowing, again, that we knew that she was potentially, considered for the role of Ellie when they were getting things together. Ellie and Abby are not the same character. They're really not. The themes that circle them might be the same, but they're not the same character. And I was nervous about the physical thing, and I was nervous about, I don't know, a lot of that stuff, and it was completely baseless. And seeing the quiet physicality, because you don't, this is something Druckmann said a few weeks ago, I think, was like, with Abby, she's physically fit in the game, she's just, busting out with muscles, because in an action game, that's who your main character is usually. Like, so Caitlin Dever's Abby is not that way, which I think that there were elements of that character that was important to that character, and I want to see how they bring that in the show still, even if Caitlin Dever's not that buff. But seeing one scene of her
Yeah.
be so physically commanding that all the others are looking to for orders, and seeing her stillness, her just, military resolute stillness. And that was 5 years before her current character. Like,
Hmm.
absolutely sold me 100%. I
I-
have no further concerns.
I totally agree. And I kind of said the same thing because I was like, I remember Abby being jacked. Like, and the cool thing was she wasn't that way in the flashback.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, okay, like, because for me, like, I don't really care how she looks in the present. I just need to see some kind of transformation, because that transformation is kind of part of her story. It doesn't have to be physical.
Yeah.
It could be more so like her brutality, right? Like, we need to see, like, she was this way before, then this thing happened, and now she's this way. And in the game, it was easy because, like, oh, we'll just make her jacked. And of course, like, her personality did change, obviously, but like, there was an easy way just to see her and immediately differentiate her from Ellie. In this, I feel like they're gonna have to do more work, which they're gonna nail because they're
Oh,
good
yeah.
at they're good. They have this down. But I'm very excited to actually see them be like, she is a weapon. Like, she is not, like, she is less human than what you have seen so far, because she has given that part of her up to do the thing. And I think that leads back into the whole, like, consequences, right? Like, the cycle of violence that happens in pretty much this whole series, where it's like, this happens to this person, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and you're like, oh wow, a lot of people are getting caught in this web, right? So it's I'm going to be very curious to see how they show, like, yeah, this was Abby at first when she was still, like, mourning, all the people that were lost and yada, yada, yada. And going from that to, like, I'm basically a Terminator. Like, I'm just going to roll up and, like, find anybody. And I'm finding Joes left and right,
I've killed so many Joes. They're
just all
I'm
of them.
beginning to think that Joel wasn't that
Who's-
popular a name.
Who's Crab Shack? I don't know. Not Joe.
Not anymore, as she wipes
Not
the blood
anymore.
from the crackers that you used to crack open the crab.
Right.
Well,
A sloppy what? Nope.
sloppy Joel. Oh my god.
Yep. Nope. Nope.
To go to what
Oh,
Chelsea was
well.
saying too, what part of her humanity did she give up to become the
Mhm.
weapon that she is?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think too, just like seeing, I mean, kind of like really everybody in the show, seeing how much vengeance consumes her to where it's like, I need to do this. Like, I'm not going to live my life. I am going to devote myself to this thing, right? Like, and I feel like a lot of characters in a show like this that is, apocalyptic and shows people making those decisions where they have to give up pieces of themselves. I feel like that is a big part of Abby's story of having that thing happen to her and having her navigate through that and kind of show like the consequence of doing that, because the one thing Last of Us always does is there's consequences for everything, every single choice everybody makes. Even though you're not making the choice in the game, the story is just playing out, there's going to be a consequence, right? And you see that in the first game, even like when they're going through the game, the choices they make do make certain things happen in the story.
Lots of gotcha bitch moments for
Mhm.
sure. And you're
Yeah.
like, damn it, I knew.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do we want to talk about where this episode leaves us? Because it's pretty foreboding, the note that we end on.
It seems pretty clear that through the drain pipes or the water lines that are leading into Jackson, that this relative safety that they've managed to manufacture for themselves was not foolproof. And all that this fungus mycelial strand needed was, it turns out, to feel some warmth somewhere. Warmth is not natural. Fire is not really a naturally occurring thing. So when it stretches out the little feelers and the sparklers there, and it's kind of like, ooh, this is nice. This is warm. Let's
Mhm.
go. Let's get an army to attack. I think that immediately leads to, and I was wondering if they were going to show kind of what, I don't know, what causes hordes, because they're just shown to be maybe out there a little bit. But yeah, I really like the cause and effect of even something as small as that. A carelessly
Mm-hmm.
discarded sparkler is going to lead
Yep.
to this consequence.
And the funny thing is, it's like, this is why we don't litter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the first scene we saw in this whole series would be like, yeah, as long as the planet doesn't get hotter or some random thing, we'll be fine. And it's like, well, we messed that up, and now we have all this, and you're still littering.
We had one job. We
Tisk,
actually
tisk,
had
tisk,
many
right?
jobs. Well, and if Dina hadn't rushed off to go on patrol, and I'm not blaming Dina for anything. I want to be clear, Dina's pure. But Joel told her to get rid of all the stuff in those pipes, right? Like burn it, I think he said. And if she had not had patrol to get to, I'll say, and had cleaned out that pipe, then it maybe things wouldn't have happened the same way.
I love the twisting of expectations in that final moment where you get the tendrils of the mycelium
Mhm.
poking their heads out, and we zoom along what we think is the pipe. And instead of seeing like a horde of infected making their way towards Jackson, what do we see? Abby and her crew 5 years post the opening of the episode, having finally found Jackson, and
Yep.
presumably Joel.
Yeah.
So to have that simultaneous dual threat of, infected and potentially evolved infected are on their way to Jackson, and then two, Abby and her crew are coming with an intention to do something pretty dastardly. It's a great twist of expectation. I really love that.
For sure. And like typical Last of Us to make, because like I feel like in this episode they did a really good job of making Jackson a character, right? Like you felt like Jackson, the city, was a character that you're getting to really spend time with and understand. And then it's like, oh, you like that? Cool. Episode end. Well, it's about to hit the fan. So have fun. And you're like, oh, okay, you got me again, Last of Us. Like anything you see, like, oh, that's nice. It's like, well, they know it's nice. And they're going to do something about it.
They're metering it out. They know exactly how
Right.
much nice they're allowed to dole out to the audience. And then they're going to rip it back.
Well, I also
I-
like that the looking ahead that happens immediately after the episode was clearly not necessarily indicative of what's happening in the next episode. They're still
Right.
keeping
Yes.
it wide open. Like, here's what you have to look forward to the rest of the season, but we're not
Mhm.
going to tell you nothing about what's
Mhm.
next.
Yep.
I know.
Yep.
It's
I-
seeing that I was like, those are all things that I know definitely do not happen in the next episode.
Uh-huh,
So they
uh-huh.
are, yeah.
I mean,
they're being
whoever's editing their like sizzle reel, give them a raise.
Yep.
Give them a raise
Yeah.
immediately because like they're cooking. And also like I love the fact that we just are in the first episode we're already like, oh man, this is going to be rough. Like all this stuff's happening, blah blah blah, and they're like closing in on all sides and blah blah blah. And it's like I'd like to think that the writers of this show every day that they're writing, they're like, okay, how do we make them ugly cry next? Like how are we gonna do it again? Like, and I trust them. They're gonna get us. So
It's gonna happen.
it's gonna happen.
100%.
We should have like a days till last ugly cry.
Oh,
For this
Day
show.
Sense.
The Last of Us.
Day sense, yeah.
Where it's like
Yeah.
always 0.
It's
Yeah,
always
that's
it's
good.
we're always resetting it. It's like an episode didn't even air today. It's like, yeah, I know. I was just thinking about it.
I had to look this up, but I did just confirm that. So The Last of Us Part 2, the game, has 2 writers, Druckmann and Hallie Gross. And Hallie has actually been brought on as a writer. She's writing 2 of the episodes this season, co-writing. But
Yep.
that makes sense that Druckmann would include, what she brought, and then to see yet another creative mind entering the field who handled the story that we love and is clearly going to be treating it so but preciously to a point, but respectfully, and then evolving the same way that Neil and Mason has facilitated. It's just that alone, that too, when creative people get to work on their project later and evolve it themselves, it's just so satisfying.
Yeah,
Do
I
we
think
know
the
which
highest
2
praise.
episodes?
The last 2.
Ooh.
Oh,
Ooh, that's gonna
Oh,
hurt.
no.
That's gonna hurt.
Oh,
Ooh,
shoot.
man. Man,
Oh.
I every time I talk, I actually talked to one of my friends yesterday about Last of Us, and he has not watched it yet. He has not finished the first show. If you're watching this, you know who you are. I'm not gonna put you on blast. But I was trying to convince him to give it a shot because he really loves video games, huge gamer, and he's usually disappointed by game adaptation or show adaptation and movie adaptations of games. And pretty much the whole time we were talking, I was like, man, it's just oozing with respect. There's just respect they respect the source material so much that literally every single addition and change is handled pretty much perfectly. Like, I don't think the first show added anything that didn't enhance the story, which is hard.
Agreed.
That's really hard to do to a beloved story. So it's like, I was like, dude, man, like, if you like the game, it's just it's a story where the writers had time to like be like, you know what, I want to do this if I get to tell this story again, or you know what, how can I make them cry more? Let's try to up that bar, you know?
Yeah,
I'll go one further and say that game tedium aside, I thought that the story as presented in season 1 is better than
Yes.
as presented in the game. Like,
I
bar
100%.
none, like so many
100%.
decisions are made to just make things elevated that much more, and I
Mhm.
expect the same level here
And-
this time around.
And granted, like I'm gonna be biased because I'm a sucker for games. Like I do game design, blah 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 blah. Like I think that experiencing a game and getting to play it out is probably one of the most intimate experiences you can have with a story if it's done
Agreed.
well, right? But even that, with that being said, I think the story in the show is just if they made a game of the story that they've like evolved in the show.
Well,
whew,
that's the next step.
Yeah,
That's the next
Right.
step. They've now
Last of Us the
remastered
show.
to
Last of
HD,
Us
yeah,
the show,
plus-
the game. But yeah, so after that, I think he's going to give it a shot. But it's cool to see a show that is based on a game. It's cool to see the era we're in, where these game properties are being treated like actual things that need respect. Like I remember a couple episodes ago you talked about or I think it was last episode you talked about Sonic. And that was a perfect example because like Sonic's not gonna win an Oscar or anything, but like I loved
should.
it. It should. You're right. It should because I'm a huge Sonic fan. I'm not gonna get into it. It's not the time or the place. Maybe that's a different episode. But even watching everything after the first movie, because the first movie is when they were like, oh, people really like this. Let's actually like get more fans to do what they want. And you can see how much respect for the source material the second and third movie had. So it's cool to see these video games getting the respect they deserve as legitimate stories. You know, like it's just it makes me happy. It makes me very, very happy.
Well, and it might be that The Last of Us was always, I don't want to say too big for its medium, but had that bigger story, had so many implications. By creating a story, by creating a game to begin with that level of, I think, care and thought out world to start with, they're continually reaping the rewards and seeing how they can extrapolate it.
Exactly, 100%.
Well, we're going to be eating well for the next 6 weeks, I think.
feel so sated, and I'm going to keep up on the group chat with the official podcast too. It's going to be great. But did we have any sort of final thoughts in closing about either moments we didn't mention yet or just more thoughts for this season?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Chelsea. No, you go.
Okay. The last thought I really had was just something I wanted to say about Joel in this episode, and just the idea of therapy making so much sense for everybody who exists in this world, but especially for this more broken version of Joel that we got in like the first season with like the suicide attempt and the anxiety attacks and all that kind of stuff. There's just so much more visible trauma with him. Catherine O'Hara is great as Gale.
Nailed it.
Therapist.
And she was so great.
And I just love that he continues to struggle to name what he did for Ellie as anything but saving her. He knows deep down it was so much more than saving her, that like there was a much deeper cost for that. But the fact that he is still struggling to say, no, what I did was I saved this girl who is precious to me. And that's what that conflict between her and Joel and Ellie is his refusal to say that he did anything but the right thing.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a huge burden for her, right? To realize I am the reason that all of this suffering is continuing. And if I had had a choice, I might have picked differently. You know, poor Ellie. She's about to have a rough run of it.
I think they all are.
We all are. We all are. We're in this together.
Yeah. Oh, but
all of us and Joe.
Yeah. Joe, wherever he is, I hope he's safe. I hope he's nowhere near Seattle.
Yeah.
But
steer clear of chicks named Abby.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Oh man. But I think that will probably wrap us for our first HBO Season 2 episode discussion. This is just amazing, you guys. I'm so glad that you joined. And we're going to be doing this live streaming Sunday nights right after. Probably start about 30 minutes after the episode ends, now that we know that there's going to be a pretty hearty behind-the-scenes feature and making of, and we all need to get our coffees. But if you're not already following us on our various social medias, please join us over at What the Hype Podcast on YouTube. We're also on Twitch at that address, TikTok, Instagram, on X, we're What the Hype Show. Our website's whatthehypepodcast.com. And you know what? Let's inaugurate our email address, which is whatthehypepodcast@gmail.com. Let us know. We'll make some space on our next episode for emails. The important thing is to keep the subject line spoiler free. # protect Pam. Pam may be joining us. She's feeling a little under the weather tonight, but she may be joining us in a future episode, and she does not know anything about the game. So keep that in mind when you're sending your emails. But I think it's very easy to do because just like this episode, we mostly were very easy. We're eating so richly that we can have an hour-long talk about just what happened in this episode and not need to go into the
Exactly.
game very deeply, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So send us your thoughts, feedback on the episode. You can comment on our videos. We'll see that too. But definitely send an email to whatthehypepodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks so much for tuning in with us tonight, y'all. We had a few people join us while we were streaming live tonight on YouTube and Twitch. So good seeing everyone. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Kira, for shouting out in the chat. Loved getting y'all's feedback. Definitely, if you ever want to join us when we're doing these live, like Eric said, 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m., excuse me, Eastern time, following the airing of episodes on Sundays.
What's a way out? What's a
And
good
that's the
ending
hype.
line? That
There you go.
Oh yeah, right. We wrote that 45 episodes ago. And Chelsea and Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thanks again for having us.
Anytime. It was a blast.
And when you're lost in the darkness, look for the hype.
Ooh,
Great twist.
that's good.
great.
That's
I'm
good.
gonna actually
love
put
that.
that. I'm gonna write the text up on the my little Firefly. I graffitied this. I got my blue tape out, and I'm gonna write "Look for the hype."
There
That's
you go.
gonna be great.
Oh, I love that. I can't wait to
That's
see
nice.
that.
That's nice.
Yeah, I
We'll
hope I don't
see
mess
y'all
it up.
next
or I'll have
week,
to redo it.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
So we're still people are gonna be uploading individually, uploading for a little bit more.
Yeah.
I got
I
everybody
think-
except Chelsea's.